Can we talk about the hotel situation? Tensions rising in Epping. There's a protest planned for this Sunday. There's going to be a police press conference today. And then also this situation with the hotel in Canary Wharf in central London. Just bring us up to date on that, if you could.
Well, I think there are some serious questions for Essex Police to answer here with regard to that hotel in Epping, the Bell Hotel, which has been at the centre of protests after allegations against one of the asylum seekers there of sexual assault, allegations that person denies. But that's led to lots of people, concerned people in the community, coming out and protesting. And at a protest on Friday, as often happens with these protests, you get what's called a counter-protest, anti-fascist protesters who descended on the scene. They were escorted to the Bell Hotel by Essex Police. Nothing unusual in that. That kind of happens at lots of protests. But look at this. This is images that we've obtained that show police vans, at least two of them there, with dozens of these protesters inside the vans. And it looks like they're being taken away from the location of the hotel there. Now, the police might well argue that the reason they're doing this is safety grounds, that they had to move these protesters, the counter-protesters, away to stop serious violence. However, look at the optics. The optics of this are just terrible. You've got people in communities who are very distrustful of the police, who believe that there's two-tier policing, that the police are somehow in cahoots with these counter-protesters. And here they are giving them lifts back to the police station. Now, if there was, or the train station, I should say, if there was legitimate issues and concerns about violent disorder, then the question might be, one, take them on foot back to the station, as you did when you took them from the station to the location. But two, if you were really concerned and you didn't have enough police there to manage this situation, why did you let the counter-protesters anywhere near the hotel? They can, through, public safety laws and public order policing, can impose certain conditions. They could have kept those counter-protesters well away from the Bell Hotel that day, but they didn't.
Have the police commented on that? This
is what we hope.
Right.
This press conference that Charlie Peters will be attending will shed some light on it. Maybe that, I'm sure they will tell us about how it was the right operational decision because of real concerns that they had about the potential for violent disorder. But for all of those things I discussed, the terrible optics of this, the distrust within the communities of police, I think it was actually quite an absurd command decision to do that, especially, as I say, if they didn't have enough officers on the ground to be able to manage two groups of protesters safely. Why did they let that second group, which is all about the whole reason that this counter-protest group exists, is to go and challenge main protest groups, calling them racist and whatever they are. It was always going to be a potential flashpoint, bringing another group of protesters in there. If you don't have the police to manage it, why bring them in?
In the first place, yeah. I can't remember as a football fan travelling to away games ever being treated in that way by the police. So two-tier policing certainly springs to mind.
Mark, can I ask, sorry, very, very quickly, did the police call this press conference after this footage emerged?
Well, I think they've called it because of growing levels of anger and questions that are being asked. But yes, that footage and many people that were there asking those questions of Essex. Essex Police have said that they denied that they escorted anybody to or from the hotel. Then they said, yes, they escorted them to and from the hotel, as is in, sort of normal sort of policing parameters. But with regard to why they put them in vans, I'm sure they'll say it's part and parcel of the same process of just trying to protect these people. But as I said before, it just seems like an absurd command decision, really.
It really is coming across that two-tier policing. Thank you very much, Mark White. Now, on the food delivery situation, a delivery spokesperson has said, we are fully committed to working with the government as we continue to collectively combat illegal working. A
Just Eat spokesman said, we continue to invest significant resources to strengthen our systems against abuse by individuals and organised criminal groups seeking to evade right-to-work rules.
Yeah, meanwhile, Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has said illegal working undermines honest business, exploits vulnerable individuals and fuels organised immigration crime. By enhancing our data sharing with delivery companies, we are taking decisive action to close loopholes and increase enforcement.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cybercriminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today. All right, let's cross live now to Charlie Peters, who is on the ground in Epping in Essex. He's our national reporter. Charlie, what's the latest, please?
Well, good morning, Dawn and Ben, here at the Boreham Police Operational Centre. We are expecting that press conference later today in the early afternoon in reaction to some of that footage that has been shared of counter-protesters clashing with protests targeting that migrant hotel in nearby Epping. This isn't a police station, but this is where we are expecting to hear from Assistant Chief Constable Stuart Hooper and also the Chief Constable Ben Julian Harrington. And reacting to those claims last night, Ben and Dawn, that the police had escorted counter-protesters to the location, which had then sparked and escalated the conflict between the protest groups, leading to that violence. Stuart Hooper, the Assistant Chief Constable, said that they have a reasonable duty to protect people who want to exercise their rights, referring there to the right to protest, of course. In terms of bringing people to the hotel, he said that the police have a duty to facilitate free assembly. They said they would only ever take people away from protest if they felt there was an immediate threat to people or property, to free up police resources, to protect others, or to prevent additional violence. Now, he said that in Epping, officers on the ground took all three of those decisions into account before making their decision. Now, footage shared on social media did show that the confrontation between those groups escalated, including the police, shortly after the arrival of those counter-demonstrators. Essex Police initially denied, as been reported, that they had escorted those counter-protesters, but they've now retracted those claims last night after more footage has emerged. So what we've got here, Ben and Dawn, is a bit of a conflict between Essex Police and the protests and the locals in Epping about that situation, because they will say, the police, that they have to defend freedom of assembly, the freedom of protest, but they're also reckoning with what's becoming increasingly clear, that those violent clashes, and many people have been charged following those clashes with the police, were instigated and escalated by the arrival of counter-protesters who they escorted to the scene.
Charlie, just very quickly, while you are there on the ground, what is the mood like? I mean, Epping is a very leafy, it's in Epping Forest on the outskirts of East London, very leafy, well-to-do area. It's not the kind of place that you expect this sort of anger to really, result in violent behaviour. What is the mood like in Epping today?
Well, Dawn, I am in Boreham, the police operational base, so to be frank, it is the middle of nowhere. Pretty hard to get a sense of the mood of the ground on here. I'm next to sort of lots of empty fields. However, we will be, I'm sure, speaking to locals later nearby affected by this. But it has spread, hasn't it, Dawn, beyond Essex in the last few days. There are also protests in Norfolk recently, counter-demonstrations as well being involved there, as we've also seen in Epping. Not the same level of altercation and violence that we've seen in Essex, but clearly growing anger around the country, which continued also to Canary Wharf in central London last night.
OK, Charlie, thank you very much there. Charlie Peters will have all the detail of the press conference with the Essex Police as and when it happens. We're expecting that within the next hour or two, so you don't want to miss what they have to say. Lots and lots of questions to be answered there.
Just as a reminder as well, the reason people... worried mothers and sisters and so on came out onto the streets of Epping initially to protest was because they were concerned about the safety of young girls. So that's where it all stems from. Again, I said it in the last couple of hours, interesting that kind of concern for the safety of young, vulnerable people sparks counter-protests.
It does. Well, we will find out what the police have to say about that soon, so you don't want to go too far.